Before we start, the name is at the top right of the screen. The gentle rustle of leaves and the soft hum of wind in the garden create a serene atmosphere. In the center of the garden lies a tranquil pond, its surface shimmering like liquid glass. Graceful swans glide across the water. Amidst the serene beauty of the garden, the heir to the duchy finds himself unable to tear his gaze away from Elena, captivated by her beauty, his heart pounding as he gulps. The child thinks Elena is only 14 years old, but with that beauty, just how much more beautiful would she become once she turns into an adult? He smirks, and then reminds her it's about time he hears her answer now. She keeps her gaze fixed away from him. He wants to know how long she's going to keep him waiting. She wavers a little as she searches for response. He chuckles, taking her wavering for being shy. Suddenly, she raises her eyes to meet his gaze and lets him know she doesn't want to. He's taken aback by shock. He cannot believe she just rejected him. He thinks she would dare reject him, the heir to the duchy. He asks her why she doesn't want to. The confident demeanor he once held fades away, replaced by visible nervousness. She tells him there's no particular reason, but the young master is not her taste. His eyes widen in shock as she responds that her preferences lean more towards his younger brother. He asks in disbelief that she prefers his younger brother. She contemplates. That's right, not him, but his younger brother. She thinks he's flirting with others when he has a perfectly fine fiancée. Looks like it isn't any different from the original novel. She sighs, thinking how he could be so shameless and propose that she has an affair with him. He asks once again if she really means that. She smiles pleasantly at him, but her words are sharp. Should she repeat it once more? She repeats once more that she prefers his younger brother, Lexion, over him, that is Killian. Elena steps out of the carriage with a suitcase in her hand, and she is welcomed by the servant of Duke Halos, who introduces himself as Alto. He guides her the way. Her gaze falls on the mansion, struck speechless by the vastness of this place. Inside the mansion, the head maid Mary is also there to greet her and also introduces the maid next to her who is tasked with accompanying her in the future. The maid introduces herself as Rossi. Elena greets them with a big smile on her face. Rossi offers to help her lift her suitcase and asks her, is this all there is? She informs them this is all and thanks them. Alto clears his throat to catch her attention and tells Elena they should greet everyone else. Meanwhile, the maids have gathered around the table, whispering excitedly about Elena, who bears an uncanny resemblance to Master Keen. The other maid doesn't look surprised as she reminds the others they might be related. The maid on the opposite table clips in, believing it's a bit bad to be alone at such a young age. The pink-haired maid reminds them they should be grateful because the master helped her. But the other main counters, what she is saying is not something they should be grateful for when both of her parents passed away. Elena looks around in awe at the decorations as there are so many. She thinks to herself, this mansion is so big. It's definitely tiring to walk around this place, and even cleaning will be very exhausting. The memory of the past floods back in her mind. She was holding a bucket and wearing an apron when she saw her mother being manhandled by some men. Standing in the distance, she pleaded with her mother that she did not want to go. She did not want to work as a maid. But her mother lowered her face in shame and just asked her to forgive her. People around them talked about how they could not avoid it because of her father's gambling debt, and her father was a good man, but he had debts. The people wondered, did they have to sell her to pay his debts? They pitied her as she became a young child without parents, and it was very unfortunate. Lost in her thoughts, she unwittingly bumps into Alto's back, jolting her back to the present moment. He informs her they have arrived at the Duke's office. Determination shines in her eyes as she tells herself she has to be strong because this is where she will work. When she steps in, she's come face to face with the Duke, who is going through some papers, holding a feather pen in his hand. He then looks up at Elena and permits her to come in. She wonders if he's the Duke and realizes his aura is so strong, but she doesn't let that intimidate her. She greets him and refers to him as Master. He suddenly drops the pen at the table, confused by her use of words. He lets her know it seems she has misunderstood. Startled, she looks up at him, her expression reflecting fear and uncertainty as she wonders if he is going to demand payment for her father's debt now. She shuts her eyes as if bracing herself for something bad and thinks she hasn't gotten any money yet. However, he clarifies to her that she is not here as a maid and she does need to call him master. He reveals he brought her here to take care of her. She flinches in surprise. Her eyes widened and her lips parted. She points at herself and questions in disbelief that he will take care of her and wants to know why. He claims it is because he made a promise to Cain. She asks him if it was that her father couldn't pay his debts and asked him to give them money. She makes some calculations in her mind and lets him know that her father had a lot of debt to pay. She wants to know if he is going to give her money. He responds more than just money, so she should call him Duke. She stands still for some time processing it all as she realizes this place is now her home. Rossi then takes her to her room, and as the door opens, her face brightens into a radiant smile, excitement evident in her sparkling eyes and joyful expression. She asks Rossi, is this her room? Rossi assures her that is right. She takes her time in exploring her room, all this while Rossi watches her. She asks her why she's looking at her like that. But Rossi just grabs her hand and tells her to go with her. In the closet, Elena tries on many dresses. Rossi says daughter is very beautiful. Elena is surprised at her use of daughter. Rossi continues, so they will need a lot of cute clothes for her. Rossi thinks just as she thought, she is the daughter of Master Cain. She looks a lot like her father. After that, Elena is having sweets. Rossi asks her how's the food. Elena gives her thumbs up and lets her know it's awesome. Suddenly, Rossi's demeanor changes as her gaze falls on someone behind her and she lowers her head in respect. Elena tilts her head to look at what it is and finds two boys standing in the distance. She rises abruptly from her chair, surprised by how handsome they are. Rossi leans in closer to whisper in her ear that they are the sons of Duke. Killian narrows the distance first and observes she must be the daughter of Master Cain. She continues to gaze at him, but then realizing with a jolt that she has stared for too long without returning his greeting, feeling a flush of embarrassment rise to her cheeks. She introduces herself as Elena Respel. Killian then lets her know he is Killian Halos. He then also introduces his younger brother Lexion Halos. Her attention fully absorbed by Killian until this moment, she tilts her head to glance behind him and finds his younger brother standing there. She smiles, thinking he's so handsome and also shy. Unlike his younger brother, Killian is more confident. He moves forward and states he heard that she doesn't have any plans today. He leans in closer and suggests they should chat a bit. In the quiet of the night, Elena tosses and turns restlessly in her sleep, her peaceful slumber disrupted by the grip of a haunting nightmare. Her brow furrows in distress, and soft groans escape her lips. In her previous life, she was an office worker. She worked every day and worked very hard. She wanted to rest and decided to read a novel. On her way back on the train, she was searching for novels and came across a fantasy romance novel. They were her only happiness in her previous life. Her phone slipped from her hand and landed on the floor. She bent down to pick it up. Before she could, a man picked it up for her. His eyes widened when they fell on the screen, where it was shown that the novel was 19+. She snatched the phone away from him suddenly. The novel's name was You Will Not Regret. Elena is the villain in it who likes the Duke's older son. In a heart-wrenching scene, Elena's anguished screams echo through the room as she falls to her knees, desperately begging Killian not to leave, reminding him that this is his child, yet he departs without even a backward glance. She was left alone and pregnant. The next day, Rossi opens the windows as the morning is very refreshing. She asks Elena if she slept well. Elena sits in silence and absent-mindedly tosses her spoon in the food, lost in her own thoughts. Rossi wonders why she looks so sad. Rossi rushes to her side and whispers her name in her ear from behind, but still she remains unsuccessful in grabbing her attention. When she comes in front of her, she freaks out screaming what's wrong with her face, finally making her flinch and getting her attention. She's freaking out because her face looks pale and shows clearly that she couldn't sleep. Elena lies to her that it is because she's not used to sleeping here. But Rossi is insistent and demands that she has to be honest. She thinks after she met the Duke and his sons, she couldn't sleep because she was thinking about their handsomeness. She assures her it is okay because she also couldn't sleep because of the Duke and his sons' handsomeness. She states that Duke is so handsome and his two sons are also equally handsome. She admits her heart beats so fast when she sees them. She thinks what's with them? But then tries to convince herself with a slow shake of her head that yes, after all it was just a dream, or more accurately just a nightmare. She then asks Rossi if Killian is already engaged. Rossi replies of course he is. Elena thinks he is because he is the Duke's heir, he must be engaged. But she thinks she better ask someone else for confirmation as she wonders why she had that dream. She then asks who he is engaged to. To the daughter of Count Oswald. Rossi confirms that is correct. Elena realizes it wasn't just a dream. Since yesterday she did not know the Oswald family existed or was just in a novel. She is just an ordinary citizen, far from the life of a novel she once served her master, but she did not know there was a Count Oswald. The Oswald family, she never heard that name in her life. But somehow she knows what the daughter of Oswald looks like. As if she has met her before. She tells herself that is impossible. Jane Oswald is the heroine of this novel. Later, Elena is playing with flowers in the garden. Interrupted by a near commotion, Elena's curiosity piqued. She decides to follow after it. And as she approaches the corner, she discovers a group of knights engaged in training. Realizing this is where they train. She wonders if her father also trained here. Her eyes then land on a particular knight who is training very hard. She thinks this is heaven. Her heart beats so fast, and she hopes she has a knight by her side later. She decides she better leave as she doesn't want to disturb them. On her way, she comes across a path and wonders where this path is going. She decides to go to that path. Looking around, she realizes this path is very beautiful and so nice. Suddenly, a sharp sound grabs Elena's attention, causing her to wonder what could be happening or if someone is hurt. Her heart racing with nervousness, she follows after the sound, her steps quickening. Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes the source, Killian and Lexio. She finds Lexio on the ground while his brother is hovering above him. Lexio is trying to shield himself from his brother. Elena doesn't want to believe what she is witnessing. In the novel, the reason why Lexio became a duke was because of his brother. Lexio managed to push his brother off the heir seat to become the duke as a result of his brother's torment. Killian raises his hand with the intention to hit him. But before he can do so, he finds Elena standing in between them. Elena glares at him as she tells him to stop. Suddenly, Killian's demeanor shifts, his expression softening into a smile as he warmly greets Elena and asks what brings her here. He tells her they are training now. Does she want to watch them train? Elena wonders what's with this guy. She asks him then what is his brother doing on the ground. Another smile appears on his face as he says she means that right. She realizes he addressed his brother as that. He does not even acknowledge his own brother. He then tells her to forget it and offers to join her for a walk together since she is already here. She instructs Killian to proceed alone and turns her attention to Lexio, kneeling beside him and asking if he's all right. But just as she's about to reach for his hand, he flinches. Surprised, she wonders if he is that afraid of his brother that he's even refusing her help. Undeterred by his reaction, she coaxes him to return to the mansion with her. This time, when she offers her hand, he doesn't refuse it and gets up with her help. Killian tells Elena she does not need to worry. Elena, who is giving Lexio a piggy ride now, discloses to Killian that she has heard that he hurts his brother. She also adds his ancestors might feel ashamed because of him. She tries to get Lexio to relax, promising him to take him back to the mansion. She thinks people only see one of the heirs, surely everything has two sides, but she knows one thing for sure, that the male lead is trash. She is determined to make sure she doesn't end up being his partner. While Lexio holds on tightly to her, as if taking comfort from her. In the chamber, the doctor checks up on Lexion. Elena realizes this little kid has gotten used to being mistreated. The doctor announces there is no serious injury and he just needs to rest. After the doctor leaves, Sophie, Lection's maid, thanks Elena and informs her that she has been his maid since he was little. But all Elena can think is whether she's aware of Killian's mistreatment towards Lexion. Elena glares at the maid, reminding her she is the one responsible for Lexion, so she is definitely aware of what happened. Sophie gulps and then tells her actually it was a year ago when the young master started being mistreated. It was when the Duke went to war and the young master Killian temporarily filled the Duke's position. She further adds he's still young, but he's definitely the next heir, so she has to give him respect too. But one day she found injuries on young Master Lexion's body. The wounds seem to have been there for a very long time. Elena asks Sophie if she has ever imagined that young Master Killian mistreats his own brother. Lexion speaks in his sleep, pleading with him to stop and to forgive him. Sophie reveals that others are aware of it too, that the young master torments Lexion. But no one dares to speak up because their opponent is the main heir of Duke Halos, whereas they are just ordinary people. She realizes that it is actually like that. It seems like she should stay away from the original story, but even after that, she's still not sure she will survive. A butterfly flutters in through the window, catching her attention. She gazes outside and notices several more butterflies gracefully dancing in the air. That is where she decides she is going to change the future of the story. After a while, Lexion slowly regains his consciousness. Sophie rushes to his side as she notices he is awake. She wipes his face with a handkerchief and informs him the doctor just left and luckily his body does not have any serious injuries. He, however, asks Sophie who brought him to his room. She informs him Princess Elena brought him to the room. Suddenly, the memory of her giving him a piggyback ride floods his mind, all that while he kept wondering why she was helping him and telling himself not to cry. He must not. He reminded himself members of the Halos family must be strong so that no one would belittle them, and that was when he lost consciousness. He envisions Elena sitting at the foot of his bed, her radiant smile lighting up the room as she looks at him with warmth and affection. He whispers her name in the empty room. In the garden, Elena attempts to hide from Killian, who persistently trails after her. She hides behind the bushes, and he asks her if she wants to play hide and seek. She wonders if he is crazy while he continues to coax her out from her hiding place. She thinks, what's with this person? She is tired. All day he kept following her and kept insisting to take a walk with him. He even remained outside her room, wanting her to come out to spend time with him. He kept pestering her to spend time with him. She now wonders what he means by inviting her for a walk, especially after she saw him tormenting his own brother. She realizes this person is very stubborn. Her attention is suddenly diverted as a mysterious sound emanates from deep within the forest. She goes to the place where the sound is coming from. It's a rabbit. She finds its ears very cute. The rabbit looks away from her. She wonders if it is in pain. What should she do? Should she take it to the vet? Just as she reaches out and brushes against him, a radiant golden light begins to emanate from his form. In an instant, his eyes snap open, and he rises addressing her as master. She freaks out because she doesn't remember rabbits talking. She then greets him, and he expresses his gratitude for saving him. She states hesitantly that he can talk. He tells her yes he can, and today he almost died from lack of energy, but thanks to Master, he survived. She's still trying to recover from the shock that rabbits can talk. But once she has recovered from the shock, she smiles at the rabbit who is snuggling to her side. She pats it on the head. She asks him what his name is. He introduces himself as Laney. She then inquires what he is. Confused, he looks at her and says in a small voice that he is Laney. She smiles because he's adorable and tells him she is Elena, but she did not ask for his name. He gets what she means and finally tells her that he is an earth spirit. He reveals that today he had no energy, but luckily he survived. Thanks to the Master's power entered his body. Elena is confused because as far as she remembers in the novel story, she never saw Elena have any connection with the spirit, and the person who has the power of the spirit is the person who can express love. The rabbit notices her changing expressions and questions why she looks worried. She shakes her head and assures him it is nothing. She then asks Lainey, who seems very eager to answer her questions, why does he call her master? He responds because she is his master now. Giving him a nervous smile, she asks him what he means by that. He explains because he considers her his owner now. She hugs him smiling. The sudden rustling of leaves behind her grabs her attention, prompting her to glance over her shoulder. It is Lexion. She sighs in relief because she thought it was Killian. She then smiles at Lexion and asks him if he's feeling better. Lexion remembers she asked the same question earlier and realizes she cares about him. He is aware he should thank her. He clenches the fabric of his dress as he finally replies he's better now and expresses his gratitude. She responds it is okay. His eyes widen as she smiles at him. He then asks her what she is doing here. She shows him her rabbit and tells him she is playing with her rabbit friend. But Lexion does not see it. He looks confused as he doesn't realize what she's doing. Because to him, it looks like she is raising her empty hands in the air like she is holding something. She questions if he wants to try holding it. He freaks out because there's nothing in her hand. Still he reaches for her hand. She passes it to him to hold it, but he looks perplexed. Finally, Lainey tells Elena that he can't be seen by others, and nor can they touch him. This catches her off guard as she doesn't understand why. Suddenly, Lexion snatches his hand away, freaked out, and she finally understands his reaction. She asks the rabbit again if it's true that only she can see him. She then asks Lexion if he does not see the rabbit in her hand. He inquires if there's a rabbit here. She realizes it turns out to be true. Lainey frowns at her because she did not trust him. He reminds her he told her and the master does not believe in him. Lexion tries to reach for the place where she claimed was a rabbit, but she suddenly grabs his hand, causing him to wonder what's wrong with her. Their moment is abruptly interrupted by Killian calling out for her as he continues to search for her, appearing somewhat foolish as he scans the area in confusion. She groans in frustration, thinking this person is so stubborn. Lexion's expression mirrors his concern, his brows furrowed with worry. Suddenly, she places her hand gently on his shoulder, drawing him closer, before enveloping him in a comforting hug. The rabbit runs in the forest. She places her finger on her lips, telling him to be quiet. As her hair brushes against his face, his pretty eyes widen, looking at hers, his heart racing with an unfamiliar intensity. He inhales deeply, savoring the scent of her hair as it fills his senses. Elena asks Lexion if he is hungry. He responds, yes, that is the case. She grabs his hand and tells him that they should eat something. He seems a bit hesitant before she tells him they should eat together. She takes his hands and tells him that they should go together. Alto mentions incredible to his duke. His duke asks him what does he mean. He states he is talking about Master Lexion. His duke mentions that he cannot believe Lexion invited him for dinner. As he is wearing a coat, his duke asks Alto if he smells something. Alto smells his duke, causing him to be startled. He responds that he does not smell anything strange. His duke tells him that if he smells something, it must be the smell of ink. He also states that he has not forgotten Lexion's expression at that time. When he came back from the war, Lexion could not hold the smell of blood as he ran far from his duke. Alto tells him that at that time indeed he had a pungent smell of blood. The duke states that he cannot believe his youngest child is so weak. Alto tells him that he guesses because the young master was only small at that time. The duke questions, how about the work of his eldest son? Alto responds that at first it was a bit dubious, but now he thinks that his duke does not need to worry about it. His duke steps out as he tells him of course he should be able to because he got the first position as heir. Meanwhile, it is mealtime as his duke tells them they should start eating. Killian winks at Elena, but she does not catch it. His duke has his eyes on Lexion. He calls out to Elena and asks her if the dishes suit her taste. She tells him yes, it does as Killian asks her, can she eat like other princess? He mentions that if she can, then she will definitely look more beautiful. Elena smiles and asks Killian if he wants her to show him how she eats. She munches down as three of them stare at her surprisingly. Killian smiled, stating that it is good if Elena eats a lot as most other princesses try to maintain their weight, but Elena is different. He rises from his chair and passes her more food, telling her to try this dish. Elena apologizes to Killian and states that she is already full. Lexion has his eyes on her. She states that she has always eaten a little since a long time ago. She ponders that it is a shame about the leftovers and she will just eat a little more. She looks at Killian and finds him scary, wondering why does he keep staring at her as it causes her to get goosebumps. Her attention then turns towards Lexion as she ponders that she thought because Lexion was tortured by his brother, he would have trouble eating. But it turns out her guess was wrong as he is eating pretty good. She notices that he has not touched veggies as she realizes he does not eat vegetables. She calls out to Lexion and tells him if he eats vegetables he will grow faster. His duke tells Elena that Lexion does not like eating vegetables. Right then, Lexion takes his fork and has a bite of vegetables, causing everyone to be shocked. She finds him really cute as she tells herself that she has to be patient. His duke finds it impossible as he states that even his wife cannot make Lexion eat vegetables. He is fortunate that Elena is here. He tells them that they should have eaten together earlier because soon he will rarely see them. Elena has no idea as her expression turns into nervousness. Realizes that she is not aware of this as he mentions Killian and Lexion will go to the academy when the day comes. She wonders if spring isn't 3 months away, as winter will soon be over and spring will come in 3 months, and the place where the children spend time is the Imperial Capital Academy. Sword. Martial arts, history, economy, politics, arts. There are many majors in the academy, but there is only one class that exists but is not well known to many. She knows that maybe Elena is the answer, as if Elena does not fall in love with Killian Halos, maybe she will shock the world by becoming the strongest which ever existed. His duke asks if Elena also wants to join the academy. She knows that in the academy there is no class that she is interested in studying. She mentions that she needs time to think about it. His duke mentions that is good, and there is no need to rush if she wants to join, then she should tell him before Princess Jane comes. Lexion expression soon turns into sadness. She ponders so Jane will appear soon and wonders if the original story is running without any changes. His duke states that Princess Jane Oswald is Killian's fiancée. Princess Jane will come a few days later after she studies in the bride class. He wishes that Elena can get to know Jane and do not forget to introduce herself to Jane. Elena smiles as she mentions all right as she is curious about how good Killian's fiancé is. After a while, as Elena is walking in the hallway, someone grabs her hand. As it is Killian, she asks him what is he doing. He responds that even though his fiancé will come, before he pushes her towards the wall and continues that she's the only one in his heart. She wonders what is the relationship between Killian and her. She asks him what does her relationship with Lexion have to do with him. He responds that he does not know as she clenches her fist. He whispers into her ears. Then does she want to be his partner? She is dumbfounded as she pushes him aside. He smells her hair as he mentions. Even if she rejects him, he will still like her. Before he confesses to her again, she tells him that they have no relationship. She asks him to not hallucinate as she takes her hair back. She steps away as he mentions that she rejected him. She's back in her room and she feels like vomiting. She realizes that thinking back, Elena in the novel likes a man like that, which makes her sick as she is aware that she has to stay away from him. Rosie made her get up and get already done wearing her dress as Rosie is doing her hair. She knows that she should not have to dress up as she feels really tired. As today's main character is Killian and not her. She ponders that Killian is engaged to Jane, and after 3 years, when they become adults in the original novel story, his fiancée Jane must stay in the Duke's mansion learning to be a duchess. In the novel, there is a problem between the two of them. They did not get married. Killian always finds an excuse to delay the marriage, stating that he has a matter to attend every time, as well as he has to focus on studying for the academy for some time. The real reason he does that is so that he can be with Elena. She thinks that if she does not date him, will he get married quickly? She knows, of course. That is not the case, as in the novel story he is trash. She knows that she has to help Jane no matter what happens. After a while, as she steps out of her room, she finds a flower on the ground. This causes her to wonder, what is this? She picks it up as she wonders if this is from Killian, causing her to be frustrated. She thinks about it as she knows that thinking back she told Lexion that they should go together. They both stood outside the door. She pondered that when she go with Lexion when suddenly his attention shifted towards her. With a gentle smile, he told her that the flower suited her as he took it. She thinks about it as she decides to put the flowers in her hair. In the first floor lounge, Killian shouts at Lexion that he told him not to go out. Lexion has tears in her eyes as Killian yells at him to not look at him like this. He positions his hands to slap Lexion before someone grabs his hands. He turns around as he wonders who is it. He calls out to Elena as she mentions his name. He states that this is a misunderstanding. She wonders what and misunderstandings when she saw it. He expresses that he did not mean to hit him, he was just trying to scare him. Killian looks away, not being able to look into Elena's eyes. She tells him that threatening others is also violence. He seems pretty annoyed before she calls out to Lexion and asks him if he's okay. Lexion with tearful eyes looks at Elena. She extends her hands towards him. As she wonders if Lexion is still afraid of his brother, she knows that he is also worried about her. She tells him that he does not need to worry. She questions if he can stand. She helps him stand up as Killian is filled with annoyance. She looks into his eyes before she comes a little closer and whispers into his ears as she thanks him for the flowers. He slightly blushes as it is announced that the daughter from the Oswald family has arrived. Everyone's attention turns towards the entrance as Jane steps in. Elena is surprised to see the heroine. Jane greets Elena as she mentions that her name is Jane and states that it is nice to meet her. Julian tells himself that she's just greeting Elena, so he should not misunderstand. Right then he gets down on his knees and kisses Jane's hand as he mentions that she looks beautiful today. Jane blushes as Elena internally cries. Elena ponders that he is trash and Jane should not fall into his hands. Killian stares at Elena as he is kissing Jane's hands. She knows that this cannot happen, and she has to separate them. She internally screams before Jane is surprised. Looking at her expression right then, Elena bows and greets Jane and introduces herself as Elena Respel. She hopes that they can be friends as Jane smiles, stating that it is nice to meet her. She also hopes that they can be friends as Elena wishes that they should be good friends. She knows that she's like an angel and it's pretty cute. She ponders that she will protect Jane as she has to separate them so that Jane will not suffer at any cost. Jane and Killian are having a tea time together. Killian's attention is elsewhere as he wonders where is Elena. He then notices Jane as she seems to be thinking about something. He smiles as he calls out to her. She apologizes to him and asks him what did he just say. He tells her that he was asking if she is happy living in the Halo's residence. He tells her that he hopes she is comfortable living here. He hopes that she is comfortable living here. She tells him yes as he ponders. She tells him yes. As he ponders, she is not at all his type. He does find her cute though. He does find her quite cute though. He rises and places his hand on her face. She turns away as he wonders why her. He knows that she is his fiancée, and this cannot be considered harassment. Elsewhere, Elena asks a maid if she knows where Jane is. The maid responds that she is with Killian. This causes her to be annoyed. After some time she asks another maid where is Jane, and the maid responds that she is with Killian again. This continues to happen as every time she asks where is Jane, all she hears is that she is with Killian. She wonders what are they even doing together, realizing that she has to help Jane. She does not wish for Jane to fall into the hands of that disgusting mug. She steps out as she notices them together. She looks at Jane staring at Killian's with those eyes, causing her to internally scream that she should not fall in love with him. She knows that he is a garbage and she cannot just stand by looking at them. She is also aware that she has no reason to intervene. like in the original novel. She wonders if she makes the wrong decision. Will there be consequences? Her attention turns elsewhere as she notices Lexion standing next to a tree. He asks her what is she doing. She points at Jane and tells him that she is keeping her eyes on them. She also asks him to do the same. His expression appears to be sad as she is confused. She whispers into his ears and questions if Killian is still bothering him. He tells her that is not the case. She finds it a bit strange. She knows that Killian is like a dog. Sometimes he can be different from his real self. She wonders if they will live peacefully in the future. After a while else, Jane and Elena are sitting together. They both are not talking at all. Jane looks at Elena as Elena looks back at Jane before she turns her face away. They don't know how to start the conversation before they both begins to smile. Elena calls out her name and Jane tells her long time no see. Elena mentions Indeed and states that she has missed her. Jane tells her that she visited her room where there was no one there. She also mentions that in the future they will be the same class, so she hopes that they can be good friends. As she extends her hands for a handshake, Elena shakes her hands as she mentions. Sure, Elena finds her so cute and wonders if this is the power of the novel's heroine. But she thinks there's something is off. As far as she remembers from the novel, she has a dark side. So looking at Jane, smiling so brightly, she wonders, could it be because Elena has not hurt her yet? Jay tells her that she's always indoors, so she does not have many friends. That is why she wants to be friends with Elena. Elena tells her all right as they both smile. The door creaks open as their attention turns towards it. A woman steps in and introduces herself as Yuri. She tells them that she will be their teacher starting today. Elena ponders that this woman, graduate of the imperial family, became a researcher since high school, the runner-up in the art and martial arts competition. Elena finds her voice so beautiful. She cannot believe that she is already a teacher in her 20s. After studying for a while, Yuri informs them that is all for today. Elena finds it a pity that they only have 3 classes in a week. As they're walking down a hallway, she hears someone mentioning no. She looks around to find Jane pinned towards the wall by Killian. She looks into Jane's eyes. This causes her to be annoyed as she knows that this person is really a piece of trash. Jane has tears in her eyes as she looks at Elena. Elena calls out to Killian and asks him what is he doing. She tells him to not force others if they don't want to. Killian looks at her with resentment as she hides Jane beside her. After staring at her for a while, he turns around and steps away. As she is really annoyed, she wonders why does she often force others. She thinks if he is crazy. Right then Jane calls out to Elena. Elena tells her to not cry. Jane tells her that she is very scared before Elena hugs her. Elena is aware that even though she is her fiancé, this is too much for her. She hugs her tightly as after a while in her room, Jane asks her if Elena can bring her some tea and a towel. She tells her yes, all right. Jane apologizes to Elena and mentions that she started crying all of a sudden. Elena tells her it is okay. Jane states that today Killian forced her, and she was very scared. Elena knows that she feels sorry for her and wonders what can she do for her. And Jane calls out to Elena and thanks her for her help. And then tells her if someone forces her to do something that she does not like, she should just say that she does not want to do it. No matter who they are, if she does not want to do it, she can just refuse it. Jane responds, all right. She understands that. After a while, his Duke asks Elena if she has thought about her choice. Elena responds that she does not want to go to the academy. His Duke questions if that is really the case, stating that he did not expect that. He mentions that he heard from her teacher that she is a diligent student and also that she reads a lot of books. That is why he thought that she would enter the academy. Elena clenches her fist before she mentions if there is no other major he wants. She tells him that she actually wishes to study magic. She knows that in the original novel, Elena was blessed with great magic. She looks towards his Duke as he seems to be thinking about it. He mentions all right, he understands as she is surprised. There is one condition as that if she wants to learn magic, he has to invite a witch. But all the witches are affiliated with the tower. He asks her if she understands. Witches belongs to the tower because they actually hate humans, so it is not easy to get a witch teacher. Even for the royal family, unless they invest a lot of money. So he mentions that to get a witch teacher he needs a lot of money. She tells him she is aware of that. He also states that actually it is a simple matter, and if she indeed have a talent in magic, then he can help her. But if she does not have talent, before Elena ponders that if she does not have talent, then the Duke will not help her and she has to learn the magic by herself. She tells him all right. She agrees. He states that it will take a few days to invite the witch, but she should not worry as he will invite a talented witch. She thanks his Duke as she ponders that she should just tell him about Jane's issue. But then she thinks about Lexion. She does not know if she should take the risk. She calls out to him as he asks her if there is something that she wants to discuss. She states yes. She mentions that she did not see you directly, but the last time she was with Lexion she saw injuries all over his body. She also tells him that he can ask the doctor or the maid about it. And she also saw Killian being rude to Lexion. As if it has become a normal thing. His Duke remains quiet as she wonders if what she is doing is right. His Duke tells her that children often fight when they grow up. She tries to justify before he mentions that she does not need to worry about that as their fights won't last long. He tells her their relationship will get closer if they fight often. He also thanks her for worrying about Lexion. As she steps outside, she ponders that she will take care of this issue from now on. She knows that she should just leave it to her. Meanwhile, his Duke calls out to Killian and asks him to come closer. He mentions that today he heard an interesting story about him abusing his younger brother. He states that he heard Killian mistreated Lexion. Killian does not respond to this. He ponders that he always tried. Every time he confronts his father, fear takes over it. A halo has to be fiercer than anyone. Since his mother died, the only thing left in their father's life is his family. Unnecessary people were unceremoniously evicted. He only accepted those who were useful to him, and he was worried about not being accepted by him, but growing up. Election already attracted all his attention. He told Lexion that he's proud of him. At this rate, he risked being abandoned at any moment, and he did not want this to happen. His Duke asks if he did this out of jealousy. Killian clenches his fist. He mentions that he wants to know the real reason for his actions. His Duke mentions that he guesses Killian does not know himself. He states that he understands before he turns around inventions. However, Killian should not cause any more unnecessary trouble in his mansion. He does not care if it is his own child, but he will never forgive Killian if he dishonor the family. Killian has a sad expression on his face. Jane and Elena are having a tea time. Jane looks at Lexion. She notices him looking at the flowers as she mentions that he must be sad that the flowers have withered. Elena finds him really cute. His attention turns towards them as he smiles. He runs to them and calls Elena big sister. Elena cannot believe that he called her big sister. And Jane mentions that she has never seen Lexion smile like that. As he approaches them, he mentions that it all looks delicious. He takes a seat and mentions he would also like some tea. Elena tells him it is nice to be in the company of him. As he takes a step and munches down on food, he looks towards Elena and smiles brightly. Elena ponders that he is definitely an angel, right? Then Killian appears as he stares at them from afar. He looks at him with resentment on his face, seeing both of them smiled so brightly. He knows that Elena has never smiled at him like that. He thinks about what his Duke told him: do not cause any more unnecessary trouble in his mansion. He pulls some flowers as he steps back and leaves. Right then, Lexion becomes surprised. As he stares at Jane, Elena wonders why is he staring at her. Jane asks her if she's going to take magic lessons soon. She responds yes, and she wants to become a mage, and Jane tells how it is amazing that she already knows what she wants to do as she has not even thought about it yet. She has no idea what she should do as she wonders if she is not a nuisance for the halos. Elena tells her that she does not have to worry as she can do whatever she wants and grabs her hands. For some reason, Lexion is not really happy about it as he rises up and leaves. They wonder what is going on as they calls out to him, but he does not stop. Alina asks Jane to excuse her for a moment as she is going to join Lexion. Jane tells her all right, and that she will see her later. Elena calls out to him and asks him where is he going when there's still some cake left. She asks him what is wrong as he turns around and looks at her with annoyance. She knew it as she finds him really adorable. She questions if there's something, ask him if something displeases him. He tells her no, that is not the case before he yells that she should not call him Master Lexion. She should just call him Lexion. He seems pretty annoyed about it as she ponders that he wants her to treat him like Jane. She smiles as she wonders. How can he even be so cute? She tells him all right as she calls him Lexion. He tells her she should do it one more time. She does it again and again as he continues to ask for more. He brightly smiles as they both begin to laugh. He whispers into her ears and hangs her as he calls her big sister. He then leaves as she wonders why is he so cute.